let's get prepared together.
Be prepared.
Hello again, Redlands Stake. This month's emergency prep video is on fire building and grid down cooking. How are you going to cook when there's no electricity or gas? Let's get started. First, let's talk about fire building. What is needed to start a fire? Knife, hatchet, flame or spark source. These can be matches, barbecue lighters, magnesium fire starter kits. This is a good backup in case matches get wet. Next is dry wood, cut to 3 sizes. First is tinder, small strips of wood or other fire starter material such as dry bark, weeds, pine needles, dryer lint, cotton balls soaked in petroleum jelly, as well as store-bought fire starters. Next is kindling, small sticks approximately 1 to 2 inches around, and firewood, any larger piece of wood. All these need to be dry. Fire building is relatively simple, especially if you have camped a lot. If you're not the one building fires, you should practice to see that you can do it. I'm not going to demonstrate how to build a fire. There's a link to an article and video from REI on simple campfire making. The invitation here is to acquire materials and tools needed to start fires for your emergency supply and to practice if you need to. Next, firewood. Do you store it ahead of time? Sure, if you can. There's a link to an article and video on how to properly store firewood. Long-term storage of firewood racks should be placed at least 5 feet from the home and never used in-house or garage. Placing wood too close to your house may invite pests, both large and small, into your home. It needs proper ventilation, including being elevated from the ground, and the first few rows covered to keep the rain out. Split the wood first to increase drying out time. In last month's video, I suggested a wagon or other type of carrying device for 5-gallon water barrels. You can use the same wagon for collecting firewood. Now we will switch gears and talk about cooking, both indoors and outside. There are various survival cooking options. Many require storing fuel. All require preparing in advance. First, indoor cooking. For a few of you, if you have a solar home with a system battery and your kitchen circuits are backed up and you have an electric stove, you may be able to use your kitchen stove. However, that is not most of us. Many people with solar homes still have gas stoves, and no kitchen stove is going to be portable. How can we cook indoors in a loss of power and gas situation? The first thing to know is that you can't bring outdoor camping style stoves or barbecues indoors. Sterno fuel for camping, charcoal, propane, kerosene all produce carbon monoxide, which is a silent killer. So no outdoor fuels in the home. You shouldn't even use them in tents. There needs to be good ventilation. These products are for outdoor use. Alcohol products like safe heat or canned heat can be used indoors. These are the type of fuels you see used by caterers. They don't burn as hot, but they are safe. There are a couple of products that use these indoor heat sources to tell you about. They were designed by preppers to fill this indoor cooking need. There's an indoor oven called Ember, and a separate product, an indoor stove called VESTA. The VESTA stove also doubles as a space heater. The Ember oven can be additionally used outdoors with outdoor fuels like charcoal and wood. There are links to reviews of these two products that come from the Provident Prepper website we spoke about last month. And of course, there are additional links to buy them. Both these products use the alcohol-based fuels. Even with these indoor design products, you should have at least a little indoor ventilation. When cooking indoors without gas or electricity, it is a good idea to use a carbon monoxide detector. You do not want a combination smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector because you'll be using this in your kitchen where there may be smoke. You don't want false alarms when it's smoky. You just want a carbon monoxide only detector. Many of these newer ones have a 10-year battery, which is ideal for emergency situations. And of course, when in doubt, cook outside. One last word about storing fuels. The longer the time of no electricity or gas goes on, the more we will depend on wood, which is a perfect segue into our next section, cooking outdoors. How do you cook outdoors? The first thing to know is that charcoal and firewood store easily and safely. Also, firewood is replenishable, so these are positive points. Many will already have barbecues or propane camping stoves. For these, just make sure you have safely stored some fuel. There are cast iron waffle makers for over a campfire, Dutch ovens which use coals. There are even sun ovens. There's an additional option for cooking outdoors with a product used in camping. That is a rocket stove. Here are a few examples. Rocket stoves are a great outdoor cooking option. These stoves use a lot less fuel because they're efficient. The flame is much more controlled. Many are insulated. They have a chimney, which is where they get the name rocket. The chimney makes the fire burn hotter and cleaner. They have a stove-top burner for pots and pans. Rocket stoves are a great improvement over trying to cook over a campfire. There are very inexpensive ones under $30 or so, but these are tiny. They're used in backpacking. I have links for a $35 one you see here on the left, which isn't tiny. Also links for a $50 unit here in the center, and a $130 one on the right. The $130 one has a larger top burner surface, a second lower door for better ventilation for the fire, and you can use multiple types of fuel. Can you use a rocket stove indoors? If you have a properly ventilated chimney and the stove fits in the chimney, then I suppose you could. Like any wood burning fire, it will be smoky, so not regularly, but in a pinch, like if it were raining. For any fuels indoors, use that carbon monoxide detector. Here's a homemade type of rocket stove. You would need the bricks and a safe place to use it. What if you have a fire pit like this? That's okay, but it will use far more wood to burn than a rocket stove. You'll have to light a campfire every time you want to cook. Rocket stoves only need a small amount of wood you put in the cylinder, much better for long-term use. So it will be convenient to use what you have, barbecues, camping equipment, fire pits, etc. Just make sure to safely store fuel. In a long-term survival scenario, these fuels will run out. Some barbecues will work with wood, which is great. Firewood should be readily available in our area. And for many, rocket stoves will be the way to go. As many of you, I have stored food and water for a long time. Today's subject of grid-down cooking, or cooking without gas and electricity, is an area I was a little deficient in, so I bought a rocket stove to round out my outdoor cooking abilities. So to wrap up, the grid has gone down. There's no electricity or gas. Are you ready? If you've never lit a campfire, practice. Make a family night activity out of it. If you're on a limited budget, what is the minimum you might do? Get fire starting products, matches. Here we have a waterproof container of matches, barbecue lighters. Everybody already has knives. With working with wood, you're definitely going to want to have a hatchet. All this is very inexpensive. And for outdoor cooking, get a rocket stove. The least expensive ones are $30 to $50, and for a little bit more, you can get one with a larger burner and more options. And of course, any camping stoves you might already have. If you can afford more, get a Dutch oven for cooking outdoors. And for indoor cooking, get a safe fuel product like the Ember oven or VESTA stove and a carbon monoxide detector. And don't forget the fuels, the indoor safe alcohol fuels, propane, charcoal, and of course firewood. And that's it. Thanks for watching.
Okay, everybody, get ready.
Emergency prep, you can do this.